All right, so we have 5 board members. No, we have 6 board members. Wait, I can't count. Yeah, we have 6 on the call, so
6.5.
6 and a
Yes.
half. Yep. So I'll give the floor to Annika to open things up.
Colleen is actually chairing today.
I think,
Oh,
yeah,
Colleen, sorry.
no
No
problem
worries.
at all.
Thanks.
Are we ready?
Ready?
Okay. Welcome to the Somerville Job Creation and Retention Trust meeting of September 20th, 2023. My name is Colleen Moran, and I'm a co-managing trustee of the Job Creation and Retention Trust, and I call this meeting to order at 6:09 p.m. On March 29th, 2023, Governor Healy signed into law a supplemental budget bill, which extends the temporary provisions pertaining to the open meeting law to March 31st, 2025. This extension allows public bodies to continue holding meetings remotely without a quorum of the public body physically present at a meeting location to provide adequate alternative access to remote meetings. This session will be recorded and will be a public record. I will now ask the board members to confirm they are in attendance in alphabetical order. Thomas Bent.
Present.
Vicky Coates.
Present.
Silvana Dinka. Matt McLaughlin.
Here.
Colleen Moran, present. Rachel Nadkarni. Annika Van Eaton.
Present.
And Rand Wilson.
I'm here.
We have a quorum. I will now ask city staff to prevent a few house rules about using the technology.
Thank you, Colleen. And Rachel also let me know that she should be able to join as soon as the meeting she's currently in wraps up. So hopefully we'll see her face in a little bit. All right, so welcome to Zoom. My name is William Blackmer, and I'm the Workforce Development Coordinator and serve as staff to the JCRT. When an agenda item is being presented, presentation materials received ahead of time will be displayed on the screen. If the chair asks for public comment, please use the raised hand function. We do now have that on Zoom if you would like to speak, and I will unmute you one by one and give you 2 minutes to speak. Trust members, all votes must be roll call votes with a motion and a second. The chair will call on each board member for a yes/no vote in alphabetical order. Board members, any comments that you type into the chat box will be part of the public record in accordance with open meeting law. Please note that one-to-one chat has been disabled on this webinar in order to comply with public records law. We have a lot of important items on tonight's agenda, so I will now pass it back to Colleen for the first agenda item.
Great. So our first agenda item is the review and approval of the July 12th meeting minutes from our most recent meeting. Attached to the meeting materials was a draft of the meeting minutes for our last meeting on June 7th. Well, no, July 12th. Are there any edits or revisions to be made before approval? None? Okay. And we do a roll call vote.
I move to approve the minutes as sent by William
I second.
for July 12th.
Thank you both. And now roll call vote to accept. Thomas Bent.
Yes.
Vicky Coates.
Yes.
Silvana Dinka. Absent. Matt McLaughlin.
Yeah.
Colleen Moran. Yes. Rachel Nadkarni. Not here yet. Annika Van Eaton.
Yes.
And Rand Wilson.
Yes.
Great. Our next item is a vote to adopt the City of Somerville Code of Conduct for the board, commission, and committee members. William has a few comments on this.
Yeah, I just quickly wanted to say that the mayor's office has asked the boards and commissions to adopt the City of Somerville Code of Conduct for boards, commissions, and committee members. And I will actually pass it back to Colleen to make a motion.
Great. So we're seeking a motion and a second from board members on this item.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second,
Great. And we shall vote. Thomas Bent,
Yes.
Vicky Coates,
yes.
Silvana Dinka, absent. Matt McLaughlin,
Yeah.
Colleen Moran, yes. Rachel Nard-Carney, not just yet. Oh, Silvana's coming. Annika Van Eaton
Yes.
and Rand Wilson.
Yes.
Silvana, we just did a vote to adopt the City of Somerville's Code of Conduct for the board, commission, and committee members.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Sorry, I heard even the first roll call, but something is happening. I'm trying so many devices.
You are a high-tech maven.
We can see you now.
Yeah, this is great. Are you okay to vote on this one?
Yes, I heard and I just sent an email.
Oh,
yeah,
great. Oh, great.
yes.
Awesome. 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 Okay. And William, do you want to take item 3 on the linkage fees?
Sure.
Great.
I'm gonna pull up next the received and estimated linkage fees for 2023. All right. Okay, so since the last JCRT meeting, the trust has received approximately $573,000 in linkage fees. The trust currently has over 1.1 million in unobligated funds, which you can see in the funding available section. And we have an additional 778,000 that is projected to arrive by the end of the calendar year. And that's from the 2 highlighted projects on this sheet. Does anyone have any clarifying questions? All right. If it's okay, then I will move us into item number 4, which is reviewing the draft of the annual report and reviewing the status of the 2022 and 2023 investment priorities. So gonna just pull that up on my screen. It's just taking a moment to load publisher. Okay. All right, so a draft of the 2022-2023 annual report was shared with the trust in advance of the meeting. There's just a couple places within the report that I am awaiting some final statistics from providers who will be sending me reports at the end of this month, after which I will have a final draft that will be published. I wanted to talk about some of the main highlights for the year for trust-funded programs. They are that the JCRT programs served over 250 residents over the past year. In addition to that, more than $70,000 was distributed in stipends and support services to the participants. And thirdly, we launched two new initiatives over the past year, which are the Job Training Scholarship Fund that's administered by SCC, as well as the Professional Development Fund for Workforce Development Professionals. So those are our 2022-2023 highlights. I wanted to see if there was any general feedback on the report or any points of clarification I can make for the board.
There were a lot of, sections where you were waiting for more data, I think, to come. So I don't know if you filled those in yet.
Yeah, I can actually go to those sections. So it's mostly here on this page. The two numbers, so numbers that I recently received.
William, I don't think I need to hear you fill them in. You could just send it out when it's, distributed after the meeting.
Okay.
William said, Tom, do we have any stats on the number of residents that were actually placed on a job, from, that was a direct connect to the fund?
I don't have it in the report, but that's something I can look up and get back to you on. One of the reasons why I didn't include it in the report is because the timelines of individuals graduating from the program does not really align very well with our reporting year. So for example, if we saw, the number that graduated and then if we saw the number that were served and then, had graduated several months ago, you would see much higher numbers of people employed versus those that obviously haven't yet completed the programs, are still in the process of completing, or are still job searching. So I can work on getting those numbers together. It just doesn't align as well with the timeline because those programs are starting and wrapping up at different times.
Well, what about numbers, say, from the inception of the trust up to date?
Yeah, I can pull that and send it out after the meeting.
All right, because I don't know if you want to include that in the report, just so people can see, how well this has, been going.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would echo Tom, because I think that it would be helpful to have. I think overall it's really great that we're doing these reports, and I appreciate that you've continued from last year, William, showcasing specific participants and kind of creating more of a narrative about what's happening here, because I think it's telling the story really in a compelling way. I do think it would be helpful. I don't think we need to stick to the fiscal year, because I think, like, if I'm here as a Somerville resident, I'm sort of like, what has the jobs board done? And like, I don't really care if it's, I mean, I care, but it's not directly relevant as to like, well, did they get the job in like July versus June? I'm more of thinking, okay, there's been this board for a couple years. I wonder how many people have gotten jobs through this jobs board. And so I think it could be helpful to have something that is this year over year, and then a section here that is, since the inception of the jobs board, we have trained X many people, placed them in jobs, and maybe there's a few other stats. I mean, it depends on like what's easy to pull, but I think that that would be really helpful.
Thanks. I appreciate that feedback, and I will, I'll work on a summary of the to-date numbers.
I think it's always nice to present that sort of like infographic style, so it's just all really, easy to digest, understand and digest.
Yeah, I think it looks really good.
It's a gorgeous document.
All right. I can move us then to review the investment priority list. And I'll make this a little bit larger as well. Alrighty. Okay, so just as a recap, the 2022-2023 investment priorities, which you're seeing on your screen, have been guiding the trust's investments over the past year. This year, the trust has also continued to honor obligations that were made last year with regards to the 2021 and 2022 investment priorities. So I'm going to start actually toward the bottom of this list. So for the 2021 and 2022 priorities, funds do remain available in the Professional Development Fund for adult education teachers and workforce development practitioners, as well as in the Job Training Scholarship Fund. I believe the memo that we're going to look at a little bit later in the agenda has the balances for those amounts. The trust has also previously obligated funds to the Child Care Career Advancement Initiative and the Job Quality Human Resources Training for Somerville small businesses and entrepreneurs. For both of those RFPs, there were no advantageous responses. Moving ahead to the 2022-2023 priorities. So moving up to the top of this list, the high school post-secondary supports programming, which is priority 1, as well as priorities 2 and 3, which are coordination and data collection staff position for FY24 and industry-specific job training programs have been funded. Mass Cultivate Ed's job training program additionally addresses priority 12, which is the criminal offender record information expungement and job placement services priority. Moving down the priorities, funds were obligated to priority 4, the Somerville Good Municipal Jobs Training Program at the June 2023 meeting. And as a reminder, the purpose of that RFP would be to select a partnership to provide integrated education and training program for residents interested in attaining entry-level roles within the city of Somerville or other local employers. Continuing on our list, priority 5, digital literacy and training resource is being addressed via our grant agreement with Scale and also with ARPA funds. And bringing us up to the current date then, we have an obligation vote on tonight's agenda in reference to priority 6, which is the mental health resilience and trauma training for adult education and workforce development organizations. That's proposed on tonight's agenda. And then for the remaining priorities, they have not yet been funded by the trust this year. I wanted to remind the trust that the trust may continue to make obligations based on this priority list through the end of this calendar year. After we turn the page into 2024, the investments will be made based on the 2024 priority investment priorities that we're going to have the initial ranking completed this evening. I would, however, like to highlight 2 specific priorities that were not funded in 2023, for which there's significant community need and demand. They are priority number 7, which is wage theft and workers' rights, as well as priority 10, which is contextualized ESOL for adults and English language learners. Related to priority 7, the trust has not funded workers' rights trainings since the summer of 2022. And with reference to contextualized ESOL, the trust is currently funding just a small cohort of residents completing ESOL or high-step programming at Scale. The grant with Bunker Hill did or is concluding this month. So I just wanted to highlight 2 priorities that have not yet been funded that the trust should consider as we close out this year of investments over the next few months. So after that long-winded explanation, I'm happy to answer or clarify any questions individuals have about the priority list.
William, Tom, on the last 2 that you just talked about, you said that there's a large need for those. Where are you getting that information from?
So I am hearing from a lot of voices in the community that ESOL programs are maxed out and there's not space available for students that are interested in pursuing this, and it's becoming a roadblock where if individuals are not able to find an ESOL class, they also will not be able to advance into the other types of training programs that we're funding.
So is that coming from this? I'm just trying to get a feel for
Yeah.
where it's. Is that coming from the different service providers? Is that where it's coming from?
I would say not specifically the service providers, but more so, we've had ESOL programs that we've funded in the past, and residents are asking where to sign up, and there isn't any space available. So I think it's I think that providers that we've worked with in the past are interested in running classes again. But I also think that there's just been a lot of demand from the community as well. And
Because I know
yes.
in the previous meetings, I'm just trying to get a better understanding of this. In previous meetings, I know we've talked about how because there weren't, say, the number of responses to RFPs that we had asked for, that there was like a ton of training money out there. So I didn't know if there's other organizations or funding resources that are providing those services or not. Again, I'm trying to get a layout of the landscape out there.
Yeah, I think with relation to ESOL, there are some programs that exist that some residents might not qualify for. So the Welcome Project is running a program in partnership with the Somerville Family Learning Collaborative that's specifically for parents of students of the Somerville Public Schools. So that's, obviously not accessible to all residents in the community. And then, there's, I think, just to underscore, there are programs that people, may pay for to participate in, but in terms of the programs that have free, like no cost, to enter them, that's also where we're seeing a shortage.
I would just add to that, Tom. That's a really good question. And I think most of like the ARPA funding and post-COVID funding has focused mostly on job training skills. And folks see ESOL as an adult education in the adult education bucket. And so that's actually not a eligible training under these hard job skills that have been a focus of ARPA and COVID funds.
Yeah, and the problem is if they can't communicate, they can't get to the next level. Now, I was just trying to understand, from previous meetings, what we've talked about. Now, did I know Scale did some of this, and did Bunker Hill do some of this also in the past for us?
Yeah, Bunker Hill's been a main provider
Yeah.
of this in the past.
Yeah, didn't they do like 250 people at one point? I remember they had some big numbers, right?
Yeah, they had just over 200 participants last year.
Yeah. And I guess from that, do we have any data on how well those students did after that program to kind of move on to like the programs that maybe Vicky was just talking about?
So that's some of the September 30th data that I'm really eager to get my hands on, is finding out, how many of those participants went on to enroll in community college or job training, which, as the semester is just starting, we gave them a couple of months after their classes ended to report on that. So I'm also very eager to see that.
Yeah, that'll be great, because then we have a measurable, right? As to, hey, how well did they do? How well did the provider do training those students, and then assisting them to get the next level, of jobs. So yeah, that'd be something I'd really want to see too, because that helps us make decisions as to how well these provide. And same with Scale, right? if Scale's done it, how well are these students transitioning to the next level, so that when we put RFP out again, we could decide whether or not that program was really successful or not. So again, I'm looking for measurables to see, okay, did it work, you know?
And I think that's why it's important to underscore that we should be investing in contextualized ESL, so that way people are getting some of the job skills while they're getting ESOL, which will help improve their chances of actually getting a job.
Vicki, do we need to have a discussion at some point as to what are we going for in that? So in other words, it's contextualized, that's a big thing, right? So is it in IT work? Is it construction? You know, what buckets are we looking for? And how do we figure that out? You know what I'm saying? So we may want to be, because, you know, a lot of people will do the easy, right? Well, I'm not saying it's easy, but IT, right? Right now, a lot of IT workers have been laid off, you know, with a lot of the changing in the market. So do we need to move on to something else? And then what is that something else? And again, I know you're in this business, so is there, you know, what do you see out there as other programs other than IT that they're doing contextualized training in? Am I saying that right?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think that's why it's important for us to keep tabs on the labor market information that's coming out of Mass Hire to understand what their projections are for this particular area in terms of where the job growth is. And I think at our last meeting a couple months ago, we had gotten some projections, so we might want to revisit that. I also think it's really important to keep in the RFPs a section that asks folks, you know, what industries are you investing in terms of job training or contextualized ESOL, and why are you targeting these? So that way they give us data that they have and that they're using to make data-informed decisions about the investments that we're making through them.
So we'd have to do some homework before we decided to put out an RFP for this.
I think we just need to look at Mass Hire's homework that they've already done. Yep.
No, exactly. But we got to look at it and kind of decide, all right, you know, say there's 5 different areas. What suits Somerville the best, that kind of thing. So, you know, we get our bang for the buck. Great.
Absolutely. There's that data out there. So you just need to tap into it. And we, I feel like Bunker Hill has gotten what ESL, contextualized ESL is based on what their, you know, prior programs have been. Scale, I'm still not so sure about. I think the Scale teachers, because they are more traditional adult education teachers, from what I heard from Lisa last year, they haven't been as enthusiastic about picking up contextualized ESL. So I would be interested in the new program director and whether they've been able to help the Scale teachers adopt contextualized ESL as part of their programming.
I can provide just a brief update on that. So I've had a couple of meetings with the new Scale director. Her name is Jocelyn, and she's coming from Lawrence Public Schools. She was doing similar work in Lawrence for several years. I'm waiting to get some flyers on their fall course offerings, but one program that she mentioned to me that sounded innovative was related to QuickBooks and how to fold that into an adult education learning environment. For me, there's still times where I'm trying to wrap my brain around, you know, where is there a line between something that's in industry specific training and one that's still contextualized ESOL. But I think that I'm hopeful that they're moving a little bit more into that direction. There's some new energy, and we'll see where things go.
Yeah, I think the easiest way to understand contextualized ESL is, are they teaching English using vocabulary words coming from a particular industry?
Yeah.
So, yeah, healthcare, manufacturing.
Well,
That'd be the
even,
thing to look for.
yeah, hospitality services, things like that.
There's also kind of a intro level, because some folks, especially those at really lower levels of ESL, like at the second and third grade level, may not know what industry they want to go into. And so there's a whole set of programming around the country around career navigation and doing English language education using career navigation terms, helping folks explore different types of careers and different types of industries. And then as they advance in their English, they're starting to hone in on the types of industries that they want to go into. And then it gets a little bit more specific.
Vicky, just it's a little bit of a side of this, but up at the CTE program up at Somerville, so the freshmen go through exploratory, through 14 different shops. If there was just as you were talking about it, if there was a way to do this at night, right, to kind of
That'd be
do
awesome.
the exact same thing, so that you had people coming in, and it's everything from health career to electrical to graphic design, um, again, trying to think out of the box on what would be, because that's a great point. A lot of people may not, they're here, they're just starting to learn English, but they need a career, and this might help them see what they might be interested in, not because it makes a difference with the kids. I know, because a kid that might think, hey, I want to do this, all of a sudden they realize, wow, I like doing that, so and we've found that that's been pretty successful up there. So this is where I've been trying to figure out, how do we get the school system to maybe put to do to accept an RFP to utilize the facility that we have there. So I've been trying to think about that a little bit, and part of the problem has been up there is there's been transition with superintendent and the principal there. So hopefully we got two people that are going to be there for a while, and we have to let them get their feet wet a little bit. But I'm going to talk to, if the committee here thinks that this is something worth doing, I can talk to the CTE director, Jim Hatchie, just to kind of kick it around with him to see what he thinks.
It would be helpful to introduce him to Jocelyn if they don't already know each other, so that way he can share that model with her and figure out if there's a way of having Scale do something like that.
Yeah, maybe through them. Yep. Well, and then the part that the school could do is offer some kind of exploratory at night, so the potential students could kind of go through the different programs. Okay.
Yeah, and that could especially be useful if the staff at the school would be willing to do that, or we could fund them to do that, because a lot of times, like I said, these adult education teachers, they're there to do their adult education, and it can be pretty intimidating for them to also try to take on career navigation work. So that we should really think carefully about who we're asking to do what, and who will feel like they can take on whatever tasks.
Yeah, it's almost like you'd want the two groups to work together, so the CTE teachers could explain the lingo, right, of each individual program. The problem is, it all sounds good right now, but the issue is that there's probably union issues and all kinds of other things that would have to kick through. One thing that
I was sidestepping that, but that's what's happening.
I'm just gonna say it,
honestly.
but I think there was a piece of that happened. I know DPW last year, they reached out to the program in the metal fab because they needed people to get certified in welding, and the welding teacher said, "Great, I'll do that." And they had a program at night out there. I don't know how they paid for it, if DPW just paid for it, but they paid for the teacher. The teachers came in, and they got a fair number of people certified in welding. To me, that's a great success, right? Even though it didn't go through this program, but it showed that they can do it. It's just a matter of trying to make it work. So at least I can at least ask the question and see where I can get with it.
Colleen, I think Rand has his hand raised.
Oh, I don't even see him. Sorry about that. Rand?
Well, it's hard to see because our screen is
Yeah.
filled with the priorities.
Sorry about that.
I just I hope that we can get the input from our public meeting on November 1st to inform this list.
So we, as a reminder of the process, we do an initial vote tonight, and then we have this, not vote, but we do a ranking. And then we present that ranking and our thoughts to the public in November. Hear all of their thoughts, have both a verbal opportunity for them to share, and then I think last year we did that survey, which was useful. And then we'll meet again and discuss the feedback from the public, and then do an actual vote on our prioritization ranking.
Great.
Great.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Colleen.
I was going to say anything else on that section. Are you all set with that, William, too? Okay. So we'll move on to the obligation vote. So that we have a vote to obligate $100,000 to mental health, resilience, trauma, and trauma-informed approaches trainings for staff of adult ed and workforce development organizations.
Yeah, I wanted to just ask if any of the subcommittee members wanted to share kind of our last notes on discussing this topic and discussing you know, how we can help determine who can be served by the program. I can also talk about this as well.
William, do you want to tee it up and then we can
Yeah,
kind of jump in? Okay,
of course.
thanks.
Yeah, so I shared out the scope of work with all of the board members in advance of this meeting. Really the last change that we made was expanding the language a little bit to include Somerville's social service providers. So understanding that you know, we've had discussions about, you know, what role do organizations that provide support with affordable housing and other needs that are less you know, really distinctly job training or adult ed, and how could they, you know, in what ways might they benefit from this mental health, resilience, and trauma training. So that was just kind of a language update. But other than that, you know, there haven't been significant changes.
Are there any other thoughts that people had, if people had a chance to review? All right, we can move to the vote. So we would need a motion and a second.
This is Annika. I'd like to make a motion to obligate $100,000 to the mental health, resilience, trauma, and trauma-informed approaches training for staff of adult education and workforce development organizations and social service providers.
I second that.
Thank you. Thank you both. And we'll now do our roll call vote. Thomas Bent,
Yes.
Vicki Kutz,
I'm going to have to abstain out of an abundance of caution around the ethics rules.
Thank you so much. Silvana Dinka.
Yes.
Matt McLaughlin.
Yes.
Colleen Moran, yes. Rachel Nard-Carney is not here yet. Annika Van Eaton
Yes.
and Rand Wilson.
Yes.
Great. Thank you all so much. That is great. We'll now move on to the no cost extension vote, which is a vote to approve a no cost extension to extend Per Scholas's grant services agreement through June 3rd of 2024. And on this, a detailed request letter was sent to the JCRT outlining Per Scholas's request for a no cost extension. A no cost extension would allow Per Scholas to enroll and train at least 6 more Somerville residents that they've enrolled for their September and October start dates, as well as support for at least 10 graduates through job placement and retention. Nationally, Per Scholas strives to place 60% of graduates within 4 months of graduation and 80% within 12 months. We're seeing a longer time to placement trend in the current labor market. A 9-month extension gives us at least 4 months to work with learners who will enroll in the fall of 2023 in their job search. Anybody have any questions or comments? And if not, we'll look for a motion and a second, and then a vote.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Tom.
I'll second.
Great. And Thomas Bent,
Yes.
Vicki Coitz,
Yes.
Silvana Dinka,
Yes.
Matt McLaughlin,
Yes.
Colleen Moran. Yes. Rachel Nard-Carney, I'm waiting for a sound. Rachel Nard-Carney, not with us. Annika Van Eaton
Yes.
and Rand Wilson.
You're muted, Rand.
Yeah, he's stuck on his mute,
No.
battling his mute.
Battling my mute. Yes.
Excellent. Excellent, excellent. Okay, we are cranking. All right. And so the next item is the ranking of the 2024 investment priorities. And the question in front of us is, what does the JCRT need to invest in during 2024 to best achieve mission and purpose and meet the dynamic and diverse needs of Somerville's residents? So, William, do you want to take this one away?
Sure, I can jump
Okay.
in. Yeah, so just as a reminder, I've asked for the board members to come to tonight's meeting with their ideas of what priorities should be funded by the JCRT in the upcoming year. By email, the board has also received a copy of the one proposal that was received from CAS, the Community Action Agency of Somerville. The board has also received a memo that outlines the currently obligated funds that have been awarded and are being spent down, as well as funds that have been obligated where no award has yet been made. Lastly, the memo that was shared also lists the workforce development related programs that are being funded by ARPA, the American Rescue Plan Act, and are set to expire in June of 2024. So this information was included to assist the JCRT in its initial ranking of 2024 investment priorities within the context of other funding sources that are contributing to the workforce development ecosystem for a limited time. So that being said, in just a moment, I'm going to put a link into the chat for a Jamboard. Once I share the link for that Jamboard, I will give the group 5 to 7 minutes to contribute their ideas of the investment priorities that they would like to see ranked. After that time concludes, I will then read off the ideas on the screen, and ask for the proposer to briefly describe the investment idea or elaborate on the investment idea. We will also use this time to determine if any of the ideas proposed may be duplicative or could be consolidated into one priority. And then after that, we will move on to the initial ranked vote, which will be happening on the spreadsheet that I sent. So that was a lot of information. Again, Annika mentioned this before, but I just wanted to reiterate that this initial ranking will then be presented to the public at the November 1st annual meeting. We will ask for the community we will be asking the community what priorities align most with the needs of the community, and we'll also be asking if there are any needs of the community that they do not see listed. And then following the November meeting, the trust will reconvene to complete a re-ranking, which considers the input that's been shared by the community. So with that, I am going to go ahead and drop a link into the chat for the Jamboard. So I'm gonna share that link in the chat, and then I'm going to also just make sure that everyone has editing privileges. So just give me one moment while I update that, and then I will invite you to start adding your ideas.
William,
Yes.
my version of the link had me sign into my Google account and then told me I needed to request permission.
Okay, I'll send that over to you.
It's same with me.
Okay.
Oh, and now it looks like it's letting me in.
Okay, great. I need to send it to Rand as well.
William, could you make it so that just anyone with the link can access it, and then we can lock down permissions after we talk? Do it.
Anyone? Yes.
Thank you.
Anyone with the link can view. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. I am.
And if anyone is still having
Oh, I'm in view only.
okay.
And I'm in request sent, but you'll get an email letting you know if your request was approved.
So on my end, I am seeing and just to make sure we're looking at the Jamboard link, I'm seeing Annika, Colleen, Rand, Rachel, Silvana, Tom, Vicky.
I'm in it, but I have view only access. And I'm using a different laptop than I usually use, so I'm not signed into my Gmail account. So if you're sending it to my Gmail, I can't get in.
Oh, okay. Would you mind just messaging me the email you would like it sent to, Annika?
Okay.
And William, mine just says Google Jamboard request sent. You'll get an email letting you know if your request was approved.
Okay. Are you using your Bent Electric email, or are you on a different email address?
You know, I'm not sure. This is a new iPad for me.
Okay.
Yeah, you could send it to both, and I'll see what comes up.
Okay, it's been sent to bentelectric.com.
Okay.
Let me see if I can send it to another email. Sorry about that.
Oh, I get in. Yeah, I opened the email and I get in.
Sorry, I can see, but I cannot do anything there. It doesn't let me.
Or if we're having trouble, we'll just throw the ideas out. William, you could put them into the board.
Yeah, I'm happy to scribe if anyone's having an issue putting it on. I'm seeing everyone listed as an editor at this point. So
Colleen, or not Colleen, Silvana, you could try and reload your browser, see if you can get in.
okay.
I am
Annika,
in,
I just
but I cannot click there.
approved you.
Okay, thank you.
And is it helpful for me to share my screen with this, or do we want to do that later? Maybe
I
after.
think we can do it later.
Okay.
Am I doing this right? I'm making little sticky notes and
Yeah,
is that the idea?
that's the idea.
Okay.
I mean, do you see your sticky notes on there, Rand?
I
After you
do,
leave?
but I don't see anybody else's. So I thought maybe I'm screwing it up. Oh, now I'm seeing a bunch more. Okay.
There we go.
I think they kind of stacked up. And then if you start to move them, that's what happened anyway for me.
William, I hit save on mine, but I don't see them coming up.
Let me see if there's any that are stacked. Sorry if I move one while you're working on it.
I'm done entering, so I can scribe for anybody. If you want to put your ideas in the chat, I can put them on stickies.
Yeah, Vicky, I did it through, the sticky note and hit save. Is that what you're supposed to do with it?
Yeah, once you hit enter on your sticky note, it should show up on the screen.
Yeah.
Are you seeing others?
Yeah, I see all the others. I don't know what happened to.
Yeah, let me know if there's
if you want to dictate
ideas.
them, we could type them.
Sure. All right. The one I had was kind of what we talked about earlier. Maybe working with the Somerville CTE program to develop an adult exploratory program through the CTE that would also work with contextualized ESL providers.
I'm seeing that one, Tom.
Yeah, I just don't see it on my screen. I don't know why.
Okay. Well, I'll give everyone another minute or so, and then I can share my screen, and we can look at them all together.
Somebody's got the TV on.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we need another minute to add ideas, or okay, yeah. Okay, how are we feeling? Are we ready to talk through them one at a time? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So maybe we can go from left to right. So starting here with training for residents to get jobs, helping Somerville implement a municipal Green New Deal. So if someone wants to expand on that a little bit, the time is yours.
I think that was me. I just remember being at the last public meeting and hearing a lot of support for helping to prepare Somerville to transition to a Green New Deal and to take advantage of the fact that there was going to be, I think it's the Inflation Reduction Act has a lot of funding for programs around helping cities to move towards a Green New Deal programs, more electric stoves or solar panels. This isn't my field, but there was a real strong voice for this at the public meeting last year. So I thought I'd put it in there. And, maybe there's ways that, like if there's government funding, federal funding or state funding coming into the city to do these projects, then, how do we create a pipeline, just as we're trying to create a pipeline for city residents to get municipal jobs? I'd like to see a pipeline for city residents to get these green jobs.
Rand, this is Tom. Yeah, I understand where you're going with this. I mean, this goes to a priority that I put down, but it didn't come up on the screen. Maybe it's there somewhere. But I get it going back to our old priority 3, industry-specific job training programs, because that's where basically a lot of the Green New Deal issues are, electrification, EV charges, solar, wind, all those different things. Actually, what we're seeing now is places like Harvard University we're looking at it right now, multiple buildings where they're taking the old gas boilers and converting them to electric. Now, some of this could be tied into something that we did years ago up at the high school. Was we had a program with, at the time it was Boston Edison and then NSTAR and now Eversource, training, people for, lineman jobs, well-paid union jobs. And we had a collaboration with them. And I think it's still a loose one there. One of the problems that we had there was a lot of the kids, I think they didn't know what they didn't know about that, and what we found was kids that are graduating, and not necessarily from the electrical program, but some of the other programs, when they got a little older, they actually ended up in that program. So on Green New Deal, you have 2 things. You have like the ground level stuff on like companies like that we would do. But then one of the big problems with it is the grid and the distribution to where you need all this stuff isn't there yet either. So, maybe that's a way to that would be seeing if we could partner or get an RFP from some of the utilities to maybe fund some programs, or we help them fund some of their own programs. I don't know, but just a thought, and again industry specific. So we could be asking for an RFP from vendors on those specific programs. Now, they're all longer term education things. This isn't a one and done thing, and how union all apprenticeships are now, they're like 5 years. So it's a long range thing. But that's kind of how I see that,
I think it would be good PR for us, frankly. And I think a lot of young people want to be part of making change, transitioning to a different, not carbon-based economy. They're attracted to that. They want that. So if we were, somehow positioning some of our grant making to along those lines, I think it would reflect well on us. It might attract some high school kids that might be, really seeking these opportunities and not knowing how to get there. I don't know. Tom,
Yeah.
So
you certainly know
can
a
I
lot
jump?
more about it than I do, but I just think I heard it last year at the meeting, and I think it would be good for us to appear to be, and in fact to be, um, really kind of helping people get into these fields.
I think we can look at these also as sorted into some buckets. So we've got so that the Green New Deal and then their renewable energy suggestion, and kind of put that, and does that fall into industry specific? We could discuss that too. But we have that. We have the contextualized ESOL. That's kind of a group. The wage theft group. And then mental health, I think we've got that one cooking, which seems good.
I'm
Then
for that.
What that?
I'm going to apply for mental health.
Happy
We all
to
we
help,
all
Rand.
should. Deep breaths. So the ones that are sort of hanging out, like not in a group, maybe we can look at those a little bit. And even sort of these literacy things, maybe the trainer for digital, and then the financial literacy, maybe some of those can kind of get grouped in chunks too, just so there's sort of themes here. People
one group I was seeing, I tried to attach my sticky to another idea, this one. So Rand's idea around JCRT needs to ensure that Somerville has capacity to respond to residents experiencing job loss.
Yeah.
I think that could probably be paired with the benefits specialist case manager idea that Koss put in.
Yes.
Remember in our very early meetings, some of the long-term members of this group will remember that we wanted to set up something, and then it really seemed like it wasn't needed because there was a regional thing that was helping out, and then there was some state programs. But I always want to keep that in the back of our mind. If the economy goes south and the laundry closes and something else happens, we really need, people really wanted us to have that capacity to jump in and help with people losing their jobs. So I just don't want to lose sight of it. It's really not something that was like, we haven't made any. We set aside some money maybe one time in case that happened for the laundry. But
Wasn't that, William, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't the city say that they had something going on with that they had like a group that jumped in when something like that happens? Is that right?
There should also be a state group that jumps in from the unemployment office.
Yeah, basically we what Jen and I presented on probably close to 2 years ago now was kind of the city and state mechanisms and how they work together in that rapid response instance of job loss. But that, I mean, that was looking at it from definitely looking at it from an employer perspective as well. So like if an employer is concerned they're going to have to downsize, what resources can get to them so that they can bring those to their employees. So it sounds like maybe some ideas on here are a little bit more on the side of the employee and how they can access resources whether or not they're getting support from their employer. So
I can tell you this, when people lose their jobs, suicide, alcoholism, drug abuse, divorce, homelessness are all some of the results of that. And I don't have great faith in I mean, we have these programs, state, federal, Warren Act, et cetera, but individuals that lose their jobs seem to be, really at risk. So
Yeah.
if we can be some sort of last resort, that'd be great.
Do any of the service providers, connect people with some of these different, whether it's a city or a state or a federal program for things like what Rand's talking about?
So what's interesting is, I don't know if this actually fully addresses your question, Tom, but a lot of what we've done with the investments of the trust so far is to make sure that people that are participating in a job training program have supports so that they can persist and get through the program, whether that's, the financial support coming from stipends, or, just kind of like the basic case management that organizations can provide to people participating in the training programs. And I think that one of the holes that we're maybe seeing a little bit and is being addressed with a couple of the stickies on here is how do we help people that are not already attached to a job training program and are experiencing a lot of these same challenges. So I think that's some of the inspiration for the CAST proposal is tied to that. I see Silvana's hand.
Yes, Silvana?
Yes, connecting with the point of Fran, which is a very great point. We started offering on the program a lot of people finding a job, but we never have to forget, and it's a very great point of view of losing a job, because it's not only finding a job, it's important to keep the job and getting trainings to move ahead with different levels and stuff like that, but being protected and involving here even the trauma, mental health trauma is important too, because a lot of situations go through the different circumstances and they destroy a human life very easily.
Right. So this is that's a great priority that we can create, and then some excellent
Colleen,
points.
just another thing on that. The vast majority of workforce development programs focus on the front end, job training and helping people get jobs. And what I'm reflecting on our conversation we had last time about there being such a saturation of job training programs funded by ARPA and the COVID funding and other federal funding. And that's why it's hard for our programs to recruit people, because there's so many opportunities available to them. And so I think that 2024 is actually a good year for us to focus a little bit more on folks who are incumbent workers who may be struggling, a little bit more on what Rand's talking about with, people who've lost their jobs or benefits. Like that seems like a real vacuum in the space that we could fill.
Yeah, that's a great sort of arch over all of that. That's, pull all those together. I think that we can pull a priority out of that for sure.
Vicki, is that something you would group together with industry trainings or with another area on this list? Or like, for example, go ahead.
I think it's an overarching point in terms of, where do we invest? And then underneath that, I think, here, I'll just, I don't know, can you see? So this benefits case manager and Rand's idea, like they go beyond the initial job training and placement that is where the market's saturated right now. Worker wage theft, all these ideas here go beyond the initial job training. So I think we've got a lot of good ideas up here for kind of filling in the incumbent worker and, people who are losing their job space. So it's not a separate idea, but it's just kind of a theme that reinforces some of these other ideas that are up here.
Okay, so I think we're seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, sorry, I haven't heard anyone speak on the financial literacy or the digital literacy, but I'm wondering if we're seeing that as connections to the case management work, or kind of like how does that tie in as well to training for incumbent workers, or whether, do we see financial literacy and digital literacy as components that should be in all the industry specific training programs we fund? I'm curious if anyone has thoughts on that before we transition to the ranking.
So I suggested both of those. So I'm thinking sort of on the financial literacy, sort of an incumbent kind of thing. So that when people, get a job, but then how do you manage everything? And so if that's a piece that we can add as a supplemental item. And then for digital literacy, I'm just thinking for, there's such a disparate job market. There's the people that just don't have access to the digital world or don't have the experience on how to do it. And then all the things that are online is just, out of reach for them. So is there a way to kind of help bridge that?
William, the city of Somerville funded the digital literacy piece that we had prioritized for this last year through some sort of program. I can't remember which one. Do you know how long that training lasts, or how long that program lasts?
So part of it is, sorry, you're talking about stuff that was not funded by the trust but funded through other city channels. So all of the ARPA funding will expire June 30th of 2024.
Okay.
So on the memo is a list of, there's a couple of items on there that touch on financial literacy. There's a couple that touch on digital literacy. So those are ways in which the city's currently addressing it that we won't, like, that's a one-time investment from the federal government.
It'll end halfway through the year. So if somebody like the Jobs Trust could fund these programs for the other half, there'd be nice continuity there. Okay, got it. Thank you.
So I'm wondering if we feel comfortable enough with this list to then just bring these items over to the spreadsheet and do the ranking. Are people feeling good about that?
So I think what we should do, William, is go like I or someone can read off item by item. We put it in the list, and then once we see what the sticky notes on the list looks like, then I think we'll know if people feel like their idea was captured on the list they're about to vote on. You see what I mean?
I didn't totally follow. I'm sorry.
I do not know if we have a good list to vote on, because right now I'm looking at a pile of sticky notes.
Yeah.
So I think
okay.
what we need to do is transcribe them onto the spreadsheet.
Yep.
And then we will have a sense of if we have a good list.
Okay.
So I would be happy to start reading out sections.
Sure.
Or typing them in directly. Well, actually, no, I've got a tab issue. I can't type in directly. That's why I suggested reading them from the get-go. If William, you or somebody wants to start typing things into the idea thing here. So I would say wage theft, worker rights training. Oops. Oh Lord.
On that one, just an amendment. I was thinking about, we had a hard time recruiting an organization to do that wage theft training, and then the Welcome Project showed up and did it, and then they stopped doing it. And so I was wondering if we want to continue the model that we've had used in the past, where we're paying an organization to do the training, or do we want to explore a model where we create a train the trainer curriculum and implement that, so that way a variety of organizations like SCC or Bunker Hill or Scolas or whoever else want to get up to date on wage theft training and worker rights, and then start to include it in their other training programs.
I am trained the trainer, Ms. Vicky. It makes so much sense.
Does anyone who put that sticky note down want to reflect or comment on that idea?
Well, I can't say that the Welcome Project has been particularly successful. You know, I'm not intimately involved, but I don't get I'm not feeling it, you know, I'm not feeling it. So,
Yeah, and I thought too, I think we were disappointed because the amount of money we spent on it, and I think they came back and said it was like, what, 15 minutes per student or something, so yeah, I think maybe training the trainer so that, you know, and then do we make that part of all the RFPs? You know, so if somebody's doing industry, you know, related training, they have to also add a piece about workers rights, you know, just a thought, you know, so that it's almost part of every single thing we do.
I really like that idea, Tom, and I feel like that would also mean we would reach more people in sort of a proactive way, because it would be folks who are like seeking a new job, and so then they would get armed with this knowledge, and just have that suite of things right when they're in a space of being like, I'm learning a lot and trying to like navigate into a different job. It seems like it would be an opportunity.
So Annika, would we make that like a requirement of each RFP, but we would also say we would fund the training, you know, for a trainer? You know, is that how you think it would work?
Yeah, I think if we were to develop or pay to get developed a curriculum, and then have that curriculum deployed in a train the trainer way, it seems like maybe it could either be, spitballing here, that like either trainers, when they apply for the training grant, they agree that they will send their participants to like one of the groups in Somerville that does these trainings frequently. Or it would be something of like, oh, if you're doing a lot of training of Somerville residents, that they agree that they'll incorporate this training into their curriculum. Like, I don't know, it seems like we might want to have some flexibility, but those would be two ideas that I could envision.
Yeah, I like that.
No matter what, we'll want to have the curriculum and the train the trainer developed first, so that way it's in place in order for us to put it as a requirement in the RFP. So we'll have to think about, you know, the timing of all this.
Yep.
Sorry, Rand, you had your hand up.
yeah, the one thing that I like all of the discussion. I was hoping that, you know, you don't want it so diffuse that people don't know where to go when they experience a problem. I was hoping that the Welcome Project collaboration with Mascosh and the Brazilian group would create a place where, oh, I got a problem, I know where to go. And so you're diffusing this out, which sounds good, but then you're losing that sort of like branding of a place in the community where people can go. But you know, let's give it a try. And maybe, you know, I guess the one thing I would want, I mean, I just don't want to lose the idea that we're going to help people when they get ripped off, and that relates to job retention. So, you know, like, how do we continue to track it if it gets very diffuse? I mean, we tracked it with the one model that we had, and at least we can evaluate it and say it didn't work very well. So let's tweak that for sure. But let's try this.
Yeah, if we make it part of, you know, industry specific job training programs or whatever, any other RFP, then we would require the grantees to, tell us who completed the worker rights curriculum. So that seems like it'd be an easier way of tracking it than having it as a separate thing.
And then maybe if a person who went through whatever program does have an issue, they might be able to go back to that whoever trained them in that to help them with a specific issue they were having,
Mhm.
And I didn't know if the city has any resources on that end either, where workers can either file a complaint or get advice. Yeah, I'm not sure, I know they have it on the housing end. I don't know if, with tenants and things like that, I don't know if they have that with workers.
Yeah, I was hoping Rachel would have been able to join us by now, but that's definitely an ongoing discussion, as there is part of the city budget that got approved this year that is related to this concept, and the details are still being worked out. But there, I mean, yeah, I can say that that's definitely a conversation that the city is having a bit on, where do people go when they're having these disputes, and what role can and should the city play in helping resolve that.
Okay.
Okay, so for the first idea, I have written development of a workers' rights curriculum and then a subsequent training. Do we feel like that broadly encapsulates what we've discussed? Okay.
Good.
I might say specifically train the trainer, so that way
Okay.
it's clear.
Yep.
Um, Annika, I know you.
I'm running out of gas.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I think
Me too.
we typed
Just,
some things
yeah,
in here.
interest of time
I have
kind of.
been in meetings all day, and my
Yeah.
my eyes are like blurry from Zoom. I mean, I haven't had dinner. I'm
I hear
dying.
you. I hear
Are you
you.
getting hangry?
Yeah,
He's
I'm getting angry.
You better
I'm
get
like,
him a Snickers bar.
Snickers bar. Okay,
So in
so
the interest of time, do we want to, like, do people want to rank their items outside of this meeting? I don't know how to speed up the process and still have it like getting
What
everyone's opinion.
What if you put them in the buckets in the spreadsheet and then shoot that out to us,
Yeah.
when you
Yeah.
have it done, and then we can rank them like we've done before.
We have
Um,
ranked before like
we could-
that, haven't we?
Yeah.
So I
that's
think we're in a good spot, folks. Like, I think we could rank them outside. I think what I would like us to do is make sure that we're all cool with what the rankings look like. And I think we're pretty close to that. I've been typing in this spreadsheet. I'm not sure if anyone else is in here. No. William and I have been typing
I
into
can
this
put a link.
spreadsheet.
I mean, yeah, I can put a link for it in the chat.
All right, I think that would be helpful. And then William, maybe you could share your screen as we type through the last of these, and then people can see like what our ballot looks like, and then William can send it afterwards, and everyone can vote. Yeah, how does that sound to folks?
Sounds good.
All
Great.
right. Okay, so William's gonna share that, and I'm gonna keep putting these in here. Nice.
Am I sharing the correct screen?
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay.
you're in the right spot.
Right.
Okay. Industry specific training.
Annika, I wanted to make sure, do you have something for year 13. Oh, yes. Okay.
Oh yeah, I cut out the actual year 13.
That's okay.
Because I was also like, I know we do it as year 13, but I don't think it has to just be the year 13. Okay, so we've got wage theft, workers' rights. Did I copy the mental health resilience? And though I will flag for this one, the mental health resilience. Oh, I'm trying to enter it into William's Zoom screen. It wasn't working. Okay.
Somebody else is getting tired.
It's just like a lot of overlap, the screens. Okay, and then we got the contextualized ESOL, benefits specialist focused on workers experiencing job loss. Right, so including a focus on workers experiencing job loss, financial literacy, digital literacy, career advising courses and experiential learning for people who graduated high school and didn't immediately enroll in college. I guess I would say like focused on recent high school grads. The year 13 program we had named as a priority last year and then got funded by ARPA, and then the funding's supposed to end. So that this was a sticky note that I had put on. Then I included industry specific trainings and something about including a call for job trainings focused on renewable energy. Like, I feel like there's a way that one can do industry specific training and like highlight, like, we prioritize trainings that line up with labor market demands, that line up with moving Somerville towards renewable energy. Sort of like if there is ARPA money that's coming through, like something that like aligns with federal funding,
right?
Focused on.
Is that
so
like that?
kind of
The green.
Monica,
Yeah.
I think renewable energy doesn't speak to all of the aspects of the kind of municipal Green New Deal that's one aspect, but there might be others.
I feel like we need like a middle ground between Green New Deal, which can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. And like, I'm trying to add like one level down from that where we're adding some specifics.
Okay.
So what if we said something like focused on like moving Somerville to a post, I don't know, a carbon or like climate mitigation, or like focused on.
If there's Somerville has a municipal, goals for becoming carbon neutral.
Okay, like a carbon neutral future.
Yeah.
In support of Somerville's goals to become carbon neutral.
Okay.
There we go.
Yeah, that's good.
Or occupations in support of Somerville's
climate forward.
Climate forward goals.
Yeah, that's what the city calls its plan. This left over from Joe. Climate forward.
Okay.
Climate forward goals.
Oh, I see. It's like a capital C, capital F.
Yes.
Okay, got it.
Climate forward. It's
the name of the plan. Understood.
Yeah.
Okay. So with those on here, is everybody? Oh, and I put contextualize ESOL twice. My bad. Are people seeing like your ideas that you put down reflected on here in a way that you would feel comfortable is like the right ballot to vote on?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm just looking back at the sticky array to make sure. Yeah, it seems like it's nicely captured.
Okay. Emma, is there anyone who isn't? So it sounds like everyone's okay.
Yeah, I just want to provide just a couple of notes on the list, which of course I'm not someone voting on it, but I just want to provide a couple of notes. So in the bottom section of the spreadsheet and in the memo that was sent out, it lists where funds are currently obligated. So some of the items on this list do already have funds committed to them for the upcoming year. And those include, the continuation of industry-specific job training programs. We are funding 15 residents to go to Franklin Cummings Tech, and one of the routes that students are pursuing and can get $10,000 scholarship to pursue is clean energy. So that's definitely something that we are doing to address that currently. We also have the AACA Building Energy Efficient Maintenance Skills program. So I just want to highlight that those are occurring. So anything on this list, you would be voting if you feel that the amounts in the bottom are not sufficient to get us through 2024. So I just wanted to provide that context. Similarly with the mental health resilience trauma training, we have obligated $100,000. So, if you believe that there should be a larger amount allotted to that, then I would say rank that high on your list. If you feel that $100,000 is sufficient for the next year, then I would say rank it lower on your list. So just want to encourage people to note that, even though we're going into a new year, there are programs that are continuing to be funded that do address some of the priorities.
William, on the industry-specific job training, I don't see where you have what the money is already obligated for on the spreadsheet.
So we have a balance of 254,000 that was not used. We also have, so I don't have all of the individual dollar amounts for the current training programs, but I do have notes like, Perscolas is now funded through June of 2024. So again, it would be, do we need funds in addition to the grants that are currently happening, the 254,000 that's unused from industry-specific training, the $400,000 for municipal jobs training, the job training scholarship fund. It's a question of, on top of all of those things that are happening, how high does this priority need to be? So
when would the RFPs go out for the ones that we've already approved?
So I am working through a little bit of a backlog, but those would be going out in the near future. I don't have specific dates on them. The only one that hasn't been acted on is the Good Municipal Jobs Training, which was approved in the June meeting, I believe, and then everything else on this list has already had an RFP go out, except the mental health, which was just approved.
So we would really be voting on increasing the amount, say in that one specifically, right?
Yep.
Or could we then also target a specific industry? So say we wanted to target solar installers or something like that, training for that. Could we get to that specific on that, or you know what I mean? This part's throwing us a curveball, I think, right now. So
yeah, I think.
So we want to just right. Okay, go ahead, Annika.
Do you want to take it, Colleen?
I was gonna say, do we want to just kind of get this on paper first, and then we'll kind of get into some more of the nitty-gritty as the topics come up?
Sure.
Yeah, so I think what I would say first, I also want to call out the memo that William referenced. I think William, you did a really good job of describing the different pots of where our money is. So the spreadsheet summarizes that, and then the memo adds a little bit more descriptions. And I think that this is really helpful, William, to think about, like, there's the obligated, awarded, and being spent. And so we're spending, like, we still have $50,000 left for this job training scholarship. We have these AACAs that are funded, or some of these that are already, they've been funded for this time. And then the obligated, no award made yet, no award made yet, is like, I think about if we release these RFPs for the good municipal job sometime this fall, like maybe it really starts early next year. And so then we have like training programs funded at a level of probably up to $400,000 throughout next year. And so then I think the question, Tom, that you were referencing is, if one were like, okay, well, I think we want to do another job training RFP and have it be really specific to something or for a bigger amount, then you could rank it high. But if you ranked it lower, I think we can all rest assured knowing that there is like $600,000 that we have for next year for job training. So it's not like we're not doing job training, I think, is the context that William's supplying here.
And then at the end of the day, when we have our November meeting, whatever comes out of the public, right?
Yeah, this is just the initial ranking, so there's nothing wrong that can happen out of it.
We can even change our mind as board members, just like in next at the end of the year. Yeah.
What it is this kind of this, what we just did is kind of got, I know me thinking about, trying to, because we tend to be staying in the same box with a lot of this stuff, so it's like thinking about, well, what else is out there, I know like a year ago, we talked a little bit about like one of the shortages out there was like truck driver training, and things like that. So, and I think what we said there is, would it be better to give a stipend so that, people could go to the New England tractor trailers? But then on a smaller scale, what we're seeing is, and this is just, we just, we've been trying to hire a warehouse manager. You would think that would be easy. It's not.
Yeah.
And then a driver that can drive not big, huge trucks, but rack trucks and smaller trucks, and just finding, things like that. So I've been kind of kicking around some things like that. And I've been talking to other people. And one of the things I found out up at the high school, it's amazing the number of seniors that don't have driver's license yet. So that's another thing. And Somerville High School doesn't have driver training programs anymore. So that really limits some kids on how they can get a job today, so just a thought.
Okay, actually, can we throw that on here as something to explore? I know this is because when I worked for the PIC and we had this young adult career navigation center, one of the things that we encountered all the time was that young people who grew up in the city and didn't need to drive to get around public transit, didn't have driver's licenses. And then the training programs required them to get driver's licenses. And so like one of the biggest barriers was not like a lot of this other stuff. It was what you were saying, Tom.
Yeah.
So that is sort of an interesting idea of like, let's just say driver's license. I don't know, licenses. Oh God. For
requirement.
Oh, driver's ed.
Yeah, drivers.
Yeah, I don't know if this makes sense, but in my mind, that kind of relates to the benefits coordinator person too. I mean, I know driver's license aren't a benefit, but while they are trying to help folks navigate a variety of systems connected to workforce development, but outside of it, that's another one of those systems that somebody like that could get smart about.
Yeah, it's also not, always specifically a job training program, but, it is a requirement that as we've talked about, for people to get a job and to get into trainings. So it could also be considered whether, does the job training scholarship fund, does that expand to opportunities like getting your license if your goal is to get a job that requires a driver's license. So
it's almost like
that.
So I think that's a good thing to think about. So I feel like our ballot's in a pretty good shape for where we are. William, what I would ask is you send it out, and then if folks have a week to fill it out, and then William, you can follow up if anyone's missing. And then with that, Colleen, I think we had one more thing on the agenda, which was related to the public meeting. If you want to take us there.
Yep. So thank you. And then, so that's just prep for the annual meeting. And we're looking for November 1. Does that date work for everybody? I see a yes from Vicky. All right. I think that seems like it works for everybody. So that's great. Location TBD. And are there any other items not reasonably anticipated by the chair? The best question of the night.
Because I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Great. And Thomas Bent.
Oh, yes.
Vicky Coitz.
Yes.
Silvana Dinka.
Yes.
Matt McLaughlin has checked off. Colleen Moran, yes. Rachel Nadkarni is not here. Annika.
Yes.
And Rand.
Yes.
All right. Woo. All right. Got a lot done. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Have a good night.
Have a great night. Bye.
Bye.